Supervisors meeting. I'm not expecting Supervisor Zerby to join us tonight because he has a bad sore throat. So at this time, I'm going to call the meeting to order. And I invite you to join the board as we stand and pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, at this time I'll have the roll call.
Jerry Long,
Here.
Arthur Zerby, David Leinbach,
Here.
Michael Reiner,
Here.
Elizabeth McGovern, here, Kara Martin.
Okay, at this time we'll have a public comment session. I limit it to 4 minutes for each person. And if I set the alarm, if it goes off, please finish up and allow the next person to speak. So at this time, who would like to speak? Just state your name and I'll set the timer.
So I'm Nicholas Good. I'm the new field representative for Senator Allman. So I just wanted to come and introduce myself because I'm going to be handling local government issues. So I thought that was pertinent for you guys to meet who you'll most likely interact with should you have any issues or questions. So I just wanted to introduce myself, and if I can approach to give you your card.
Please. Because I already forgot your name.
I go by Nick.
Nick, let's do it.
Thank you, Nick.
Nick, can you get one to
I will.
Mr.
Absolutely,
Zerby?
yes.
Okay.
Got it.
Thought I got the name right.
Yep.
And then I just wanted to ask if you have any questions at this time. Go on here. And if not, you have our contact information, so always feel free to give us a call or send me an email personally, and I'll help you out.
Thanks for coming by.
Yep, you bet.
Okay, anyone else? Okay. We'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is conditional use hearing. And I'll ask our solicitor to explain the status and update us and where we're at on that particular item.
Okay, great. We're here tonight for a limited purpose. We basically somewhat closed the record on this case. This was an application of RJS Investments to permit the construction of 2 4-unit apartment buildings on a property owned by RJS located at 1399 Bowmansville Road in Brecknock Township pursuant to section 11022 of the Brecknock Township zoning ordinance. They were here on August 14th at the regular Board of Supervisors meeting to request a conditional use. At that time, no one else entered their status as a party in the proceeding. It was just RJS as the applicant. They presented testimony. However, they did not have the groundwater availability study prepared yet, which is a condition that needs to be complied with prior to obtaining the conditional use from the Board of Supervisors. It is my understanding that they have submitted that groundwater availability study to the township, and that has been reviewed by Fred Ebert. And I can turn it over to Mike just to advise the board the status of that study, if it was reviewed and what the results were.
Sure, thank you. As Liz mentioned, we did receive a copy of the groundwater study from Jeff Beloga, I believe it is, from Becker Engineering. He's a professional geologist. He prepared a very thorough study that we, in conjunction with Fred Ebert's office, did a review. Fred specializes in sanitary sewer and water technical reviews, so we utilize his services for that end of the technical issue related to groundwater availability in the township. He found he had some minor comments related to the study, and then they've submitted, in response to his review letter, they submitted responses to address the comments that he had generated in his first review letter, and then issued a final letter recommending approval to the Board of Supervisors for the groundwater availability study. In a nutshell, what the study demonstrated was that there's sufficient water availability for the proposed development, and there's also, what we also looked at was the impact on adjacent properties within a half of a mile. Any existing well that was in that area was also analyzed because of the small size of the lot and to ensure that there was enough recharge to generate additional water for not only serving this development, but also the surrounding uses that are already there. And it was his determination, him being Fred Ebert, that there was sufficient information provided and there was sufficient recharge available to supply this development and also protect the existing users in the area.
And just for the record, Mike, do you have copies of that letter from Ebert and also the letters, this CAT study supplied by the engineer that we can mark for the
Yes,
record?
we do. We have a copy of the report and then also the review letter of September 28th. And then finally, the recommendation of approval from Fred Ebert from October 5.
Okay, we're gonna mark those collectively as applicant exhibit 1, if that's okay with you. And we'll have the court reporter mark those.
Do you have a copy of the report?
I don't have the copy of the report. Do you have that? I was going to ask if the township may actually have a copy of that.
This is a copy of the report,
Yes.
September
Okay,
13th.
we'll have that collectively marked in exhibit A1.
Yeah, for the record, each board member does have that copy also. Oh.
Yeah. All right. Do you have any other exhibits that you want to admit at this time into evidence?
I don't think so. I think most of our testimony was given at the August meeting and with the outstanding issue of the groundwater.
Study.
Study, groundwater study that the adequacy study that was done. That was the only, this is all that we present.
Okay, so at this time, what we're gonna do is we'll admit all of the township exhibits and the applicant exhibit number 1 into evidence. And you have no more testimony to give at this point? We're
Unless
gonna-
there's an outstanding question.
Does the board have any questions before we close the record?
I'd like a recommendation from our township engineer.
Okay, okay.
Just on the water study, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, we would also recommend approval of the water study that was submitted as revised in the last review by Fred Ebert.
Okay. So at this time, we're gonna close the record, and I would ask the board if they would like to make a motion on the conditional use pursuant to section 110-22 of the Brecknock Township zoning ordinance on this application.
Do you have any other counsel for the board?
I have no other counsel. I don't feel that, they satisfied all the requirements, so it's up to the board, but legally, they satisfied all the requirements needed for conditional use under the ordinance.
Do you have any questions or discussion? Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the conditional use hearing and allow the applicant to proceed with the townhouses as submitted in their testimony.
I'll second.
Okay, motion was made and seconded. Those in favor say aye.
Yeah, I interject just a second, just so the motion's clear on the record, there are apartments.
Okay, well,
Just wanted to make
note that correction as apartments. Okay. Does that change your second? Okay, the motion is made and seconded. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
As you know, we have 45 days to issue the written decision. The board will have to sign it. I'll be faster than 45 days, but I'll get it to the board. Yeah.
Thank you. That concludes our conditional use hearing. Thank you for your services. At this time, we have a couple guests. Our first guest will be Ron Hershey concerning 318 East Maple Grove Road modifications request.
Good evening. So what I have before you here tonight is a kind of a presentation of a plan that we're looking at a property that exists currently. It's on 318 Maple Grove Road. Richard and Dorcas Martin had bought the house kind of right on the corner down from Hill Road, across from the Christmas tree place there. That's on the right-hand side. And what their idea was to renovate the house and live there. And after talking with builders and discussing what was going on, I thought, not going to be a whole lot left of the house after we kind of go through these renovations. And you can correct me if I'm wrong on any of these statements, but this is Dorcas and Richard Martin back there. And so they said, well, let's build, but we'd kind of like to stay in the house while we build. So rather than building where the house exists because they want to stay there, they're actually building behind that house while they're living in the existing house that stays there, and then once the house is built, we'll demo the house and move into the new home. So as part of this process, we went through and evaluated the lot coverage, amount of impervious, what would be new, what would be taking out, all that. So basically the bottom line is they're going to be adding about 1,200 square feet of new impervious. As you can see, some of it's a driveway and some of it is the dwelling itself. The issue with why we're here tonight is to request some relief from the stormwater ordinance. This particular amount of disturbance is going to be about 19,500 square feet of disturbed area. Now that disturbed area would include a topsoil pile over here to the southwest of the property. Would also be removing and regrading that front lot where the existing house is right now. And under your current ordinance, your stormwater ordinance, in order to fit under a small projects category, and again, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but in order to fit under a small projects category, it would be less than 2,000 square feet of new impervious and less than 5,000 square feet of disturbed area. So what we're proposing is we would like to, and if you cannot meet those thresholds, then you're required to do the full stormwater management plan, which would be a basin, 7+ inches of rain, kind of the whole ball of wax, so to speak, from a stormwater perspective. Our increase is about 1,000 square feet. What we would propose would be to approach it from a stormwater perspective, small project stormwater perspective, as it relates to infiltration trench here on this back side, which would account for the 2,700 square feet of the house right here. And along with that, because we're over that 5,000 threshold, we would also be looking to do a formal E&S plan through the conservation district. The property area, which I apologize, 10.5 acres. Property area is about 10.5 acres. This line here on the right-hand eastern side of the page would be the eastern property line. It goes down, and there's some wooded area down below that. So there's a fair amount of area from this point down to where it would discharge onto an adjoining property. Several hundred feet for sure, 300-400 feet for sure, maybe a little bit more. So we don't feel that it had an impact on anybody downstream as far as water runoff. There would be a lot of area where it would be sheet flowing off, and again, with the infiltration trench there, the field would be collecting the stormwater from the existing structure that would be there. So anyway, that's kind of what we're here tonight, is to ask relief from the board to consider relief from the requirements for a full stormwater plan and treat this as a small projects stormwater plan.
Will the space that the existing house occupies now, is that going to be converted back to pervious soil?
Correct. That'll be re-landscaped and grass. Yep. And again, if they were to move the house up to where that house is, the disturbance would be less because they'd be in the same footprint of where the house was. But because they want to stay where it's at and they don't want the new house exactly where that's at, they want to look at it from a component of being able to live there while you're building. But that does help. That does increase the amount of disturbed area. And again, in this 19,500 square feet I show on the plan, it includes an area over here where, for topsoil, because we'll have some E&S, stuff to deal with when you disturb topsoil and all that. So, not sugarcoating the amount of disturbed area. I'm trying to be optimistic when we're looking at a total perspective of what will actually be disturbed.
Is that where the tops of the field, for a long time you were holding a field and?
That's a garden area that's there. That's a garden area. It's just some railroad ties. You can kind of see the topography right here. There's a little edge right here where and again, the infiltration, this area is down below that, but you can kind of see where that little garden area sits right in.
Ron, the fill is further to your left, correct?
Down here?
Yeah. Isn't that
Oh,
where
I don't know.
they
Might
had a
have been
driveway
there,
off
but
the-
then I thought that they used to have a pre-fill one, that they haul fill in there for.
Oh, I don't know.
Haul fill in there.
Do you know anything about that? They bought it in August? June, March?
I
Okay.
think it's more to the west of that Maple Grove Road continues out.
Yeah, there's a good portion of this lot that would be to the west of that. You know, at least, that's what we're thinking of.
I asked our township engineer, do you think this can work in the small projects?
Yes,
Water?
in a nutshell, yes. I'm familiar with the property in general, the area, and I've done many of these where they're actually doing an impervious swap, more or less.
Okay.
Obviously, it won't meet until the house is removed, until the final stage of post-construction has been completed, but at the final stage, it would actually be fine for a small project.
Right, once everything's removed. It's
Right.
just that disturbed area is kind of the threshold that's, and again, we're a half an acre lot, we're disturbing everything, and I got two neighbors on either side. That's maybe a different story, but it's a 10-acre lot, we got plenty of area downstream,
Right.
URE, and that's property, there's plenty of places for that. And there are some areas to the south of this that are, we'll say, subject to softness during high groundwater table areas.
Yes,
So
down below.
there are areas
Yeah.
of wetland recharge area down below we want to be sensitive to.
But your E&S plan will include the whole thing.
Correct. Our E&S plan will totally encompass, yeah. I mean, I would imagine that what they'll probably have is some sort of silt sock or silt fence that would, you can see the contours, everything flows this way, so I'm sure that, they'll have a substantial amount of silt fence or silt sock will be down the lower side of that. With that use areas.
Do you see any problems with the
Not if it's going back to 1,200 square feet. More than what it was.
Yeah, that's what'll be the new impervious on the site, yeah.
And the driveways come out too, Ron.
Yeah, this driveway here is coming out
Mhm.
from here over, and
Yeah,
then this driveway will be a new driveway connected to the existing driveway that's there.
Yeah, it's all the same watershed, so it
Right.
doesn't, you're not swapping any watersheds or issues like that, so generally that would be acceptable.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion that we grant the waiver from the Brecknock stormwater ordinance and instead replace it with the small projects application for the stormwater. For the Richard Mueller's Mark project. Okay, the motion was made to grant the waiver and it was second. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our next guest is Ron Hershey regarding the Reading Road zoning discussion.
Okay, I think you gentlemen have and ladies have a copy of this in your plan, yes. Okay.
And yes.
Okay, yep. So tonight we're looking at a few properties that are listed. The subject parcel is 1286 Reading Road, and I'll use this because you have it in your things there. So the 1286 is right in this location right here, and these four properties are all owned by the same individual. And what we're looking to do, or requesting from the Board of Supervisors to consider, is the neighborhood commercial district, zoning district, stops at that red line right there along 625, as you head north on 625. It stops right before you get to Schoolhouse Road, Old Schoolhouse Road, where the new development went in 10, 12 years ago, something like that. So all this property is on the east side of 625, north of that neighborhood commercial district, up to Old School Road. They're all currently residential lots, and they're in a residential medium district. what we're looking to, for the township to consider would be to extend that neighborhood commercial zoning district to the north, bounded on the north by Old School Road, on the west by 625, and then on the east by the residential development lots that front on Old School or Mill Street to the east. So if you look at your current comprehensive plan for the proposed urban growth area, again, I have a copy of that in your pamphlet, I believe. You'll see that the urban growth area for the village mixed uses was extended up to that School Road, Old School Road property, which would include the properties we're discussing tonight for consideration. So again, I think it would be in line with what future development proposed on the urban growth plan, your future growth plan, as well as consistent with the neighborhoods to the south, and the corridor 625 would also lead credence to that just by accessibility to major routes and highways.
Now, the future growth map for Brecknock Township, like you say, includes that as future neighborhood commercial.
Future village mixed use.
Yeah, okay, but it looks like it also includes the whole corner.
Again, it's a little bit small. It's very difficult to see exactly how far that goes to the north. If you were to, are you referring to going beyond Old School Road?
I'm wondering if we should consider the whole corner, because right now, the property,
It's across 625 too, no?
the future growth map, yeah.
It does, and I can address that, and that's up to, that's up to you guys as how you want to deal with that, or how you want to consider that.
Well, what I was getting at, just focusing on the east side of 625, it appears the zoning district splits Chet Stolzfus's property there.
It currently does. So you're referring to the three properties that would be east of this, but west of Mill Street. That's what I'm hearing you say. So you're saying bounded by Mill Street and bounded by Old School Road. Would you get that, Mike?
Yes, that
Yeah.
sounds
Yes.
like
So if all of Chet Stolzfus's property was included in this, then we have just two properties there that are kind of left by themselves. I'm wondering if good planning would just include the whole section between Mill Street, Old School Road, and 625.
I don't disagree with that. I know the reason that property was probably split between neighborhood commercial and residential medium is because if you look at the aerial view that I provided, there is a wetland detention area, recharge area for the apartments that's right there in that area. So again, it wouldn't be functional land. It could be used for neighborhood commercial, but nevertheless, I see what you're saying. It would free up availability, because if you have a use, let's just say a use that would have some man, I'm having a difficult time pulling words together. Some constraints based on being next to a residential use or a different zoning district.
Yeah.
By those being neighborhood commercial, it may free up those constraints for better utilization of those properties.
So that one you were saying, Chet Stolzfus.
This one here, see, the property is all of this, but the district line divides it.
Oh, that's the way it's called.
Yeah.
Yep. And again, as you stated, Mr. Long, to the west of that, there are properties that would also be included in this urban growth map, future use map. Oh, there's a that would be also included in that. On the other side of 625. So, as he was saying, there's Old School and there's Mill Street, so that would be the one corner over there. And I believe you were discussing these properties here on the east side as well. West side, west side, 625 as well. those properties would be 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 properties, as I see it, would be on that west side of 625, and everything else would be bounded by already developed lands of the Meadows Phase 1, or Phase 2?
2.
2, Phase 2. So this line right here would be Meadows Phase 2 line, and these properties would be existing residential lots, residential medium district lots.
There's a hair salon back there right now, right?
That is correct. That is on the west side of 625, that is correct. And again, I don't disagree with that if you're going through this process, that there may be a better way to kind of, shall we say, make it all happen, at least as it would pertain to the north side of Bowmansville. Whether something develops out of it or not is another story, but.
I don't know, Dave, if we follow that setback line, it looks like it's, the depth of them lots change on the west side of 625 is neighborhood commercial. If we took that straight across, we'd actually miss the hair salon.
Splitting this property.
Yeah,
This is kind of wide in here too, isn't it?
not back here.
Well, it's right up by the road, 625 already, I believe.
I would have you consider the fact that with the development to the west of those lots, being a residential development, that it would be highly unlikely for any future neighborhood commercial applications to be put in that development. And the idea of those lots west of 625, if we're going to talk about those and be on the table with those lots west of 625 would be larger lots where neighborhood commercial activity would probably be more applicable in those areas with those lots. Now, currently there are existing residential homes, very nice homes that are on those larger lots, but there aren't many large lots within Bowmansville, large tracts within Bowmansville that are neighborhood commercial. And so I would make the recommendation. I run into ordinances all the time, zoning ordinances all the time, that delineate a line in the sand, shall we say, okay, 200 feet from the center line of the road or 300 feet from the center line of the road. And I would say that any neighborhood commercial activity that would be permissible, even on those lots to the west, again, by being adjoining to residential uses or residential medium district, would require buffering or landscaping or whatever that would preclude the visibility of those. So I would have you consider the entire lot versus trying to segment it into a range or a distance off the center line. That just leads to a lot of complications sometimes.
Yeah, I
When you're
agree.
developing
I mean,
lots.
It's easier to enforce.
It is. It's a lot
And it's
easier.
typically done by lot
Right,
property
absolutely.
boundaries.
That is. And I think that's why probably the comprehensive, but your overall urban growth plan is delineated by the boundary lines, or existing boundary lines.
Well, I'd be in favor of forwarding to the planning commission for their review and evaluation of everything on the east side of 625 between Bowmansville Road, Mill Street, and 625. And then if, Dave, if you think they should also take into consideration the west side of 625, we certainly could add that.
No, there's already a business in there, and I guess that's the back lot to this one.
Yeah, yeah. And then the planning commission can get feedback from the landowners and see what consensus is.
I think it'd be good if we had more neighborhood commercial where people can do little business like that so long.
Are you thinking just the two parcels on the west side, or
Straight out from Old School Road,
Yeah.
that would be the,
looks like it's two parcels?
yeah. and that already is on the future?
It would be, it'd be actually 4 parcels. If you look at it closely, I believe the entire 4 parcels that would be on this side would be this lot, which is the larger of the lots.
Look,
And this lot,
Sure.
and then these 2. So it'd be this one,
this is a large.
this one, this one, and this one. This would be the end of where the Meadows development would be. So I would, and I think that's in line with your comprehensive plan. It may actually even include a lot or 2 to the north
Yeah.
that's not included in Meadows, but that would be up to you. I kind of feel those lots are probably not really significant. These are larger lots that are deeper and contiguous with one another. I don't know that those smaller lots out on 625.
What about these 2 lots then? If you're coming over here.
Well, again, that's a board consideration. I mean, on your urban growth plan, it stopped there. It stopped there, and that's fine. I mean, I you know, whatever you want to consider.
It looks like it came across that deep.
Yeah, I would almost like to see a larger scale of that.
Which one are you talking about?
Talking about ranks, apartment houses.
Correct. That's exactly what that is.
And the 2 properties.
Because if you go from Ranks, the next property down is, they were 2 ladies that just recently sold it, actually.
They did.
Luke just bought that.
He did.
And from there, the next property is the fire hall.
It is.
So there's really, it's this property and 1 more, and then you're at the fire hall. So, you know, if you were to consider these 4 properties here, 1, 2, 3, 4, that would take you to the fire hall property.
Well, which property is this one here that,
I couldn't tell you who the owner is. But obviously, as you can see, that's the larger of any of these lots that we're discussing.
I was just thinking if the back of their property line continued south to Maple Grove Road.
It would probably include that property that's adjoining the fire hall. It probably would. Because Maple Ridge, do you have plans for Maple Ridge, or Maple Ridge? Maple Meadows. Meadows Phase 2. Do you have any of those plans that would be here? Yeah. So you could probably pull it up, or we could discuss that, or I could present another exhibit for the planning commission that would include the lots that we're discussing. I'll forward that to you, and Mr. Linebaugh here for review or discussion, if you guys want to put it in a bigger scale.
I guess I'm thinking to forward to the planning commission with 3 options. One is what you presented tonight as option number 1.
Okay.
Option number 2, include the entire area between Mill Street, Old School Road, and 625.
So include all the properties to the east of 625, west of Mill, south of Old School.
Yes.
Okay?
And then the 3rd option is cross over 625 and include the properties that are marked on our comprehensive plan as future growth.
And these few
Yes.
properties here in the bottom along Maple Grove Road as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Understood. So just so you and the people that are here listening to this, the neighborhood commercial district allows for personal service shops, including but not limited to shoe repair, tailor, dressmaker, barber, beauty salons, and similar shops. Shops that would involve retail or sales of other retail goods, physicians, chiropractic, self-serve laundry, laundromats, professional offices, banking facilities, municipal uses as most districts allow, restaurants without drive-throughs, without drive-ins, drive-throughs, waiver drive-through, it says drive-in, not drive-through. But it also allows for single-family detached dwellings, which would be very similar to the existing residential medium districts. So what they're allowed to do now in that district, they would still be allowed to do. It just adds an additional layer of other businesses in residential and small shops that could be either worked out of their home or develop the property in such a way that the property is used primarily for that. So it just In looking at the urban growth and the expansion here, those areas are marked as potential areas for growth within the township that could spur economic growth, new businesses, and new economic opportunities for the people who live in town.
Is that,
I like your idea, good, 3 different options, yeah.
will do? Okay, well, I'll make that a motion that we forward this proposal to the planning commission for their review, for them to have a public hearing and get owners' feedback on the 3 options that I suggested.
Do you want their recommendation to come back to you
Yes.
before they have a public hearing, or do you want?
Yeah, it
I
has to
think-
go, what happens is it'll go to the planning commission for a meeting.
Well,
I
he's
think when you have a public meeting-
he's giving 3 options.
3 options
Right.
to
So
the
is that
planning commission. This is what we usually do with the zoning ordinance
an
amendments.
option?
They'll review,
Okay.
and then they'll recommend something, it'll come back to the supervisors. The supervisors will then authorize our office if they want to draft the zoning ordinance amendment.
Yep.
And it'll go back to the planning commission for their review of the
Right.
zoning ordinance amendment, and we'll also have to send it to the
Correct.
Lancaster County.
I didn't know. I was just getting clarification
Yeah.
to see if they wanted to find out what the planning commission's ideas were on the 3 options.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, there's a motion.
On the second.
One second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Okay, our next guest is Maple Ridge developer.
My name is Dave King, here for AS Brewers for Maple Ridge development. We had submitted a letter to have a reduction in tree planting, street tree planting for the dedication of the streets. We had met with the neighbors, all the people in the development, and they had made the cross off the ones that we had crossed off the ones, the people that did not want trees or already had trees planted. This is an older development, and some people already have street trees, put them in on their own. On the letter, I think it says there's 23 street trees that residents have planted. And 34 out of the 80 trees, there was 34 crossed off, and 23 of those were already planted by the homeowners. So I guess we were wondering if we could do just grant the homeowners' wishes and just plant the ones that they wanted there, so we could move on with the street dedication. That was, and the homeowners all signed and dated their ones where they want it crossed off on there.
Is the street trees the only issue left for you to dedicate this?
There's also some other, we need to get an inspection for the stormwater, which we're working on that, and also the as-built. Mike would probably know a lot more of that.
Yeah,
than
there's
I
a
do.
punch list that we generated,
Yeah.
which is a basic checklist of normal things that they would have to do to satisfy the
Right.
dedication process. This is one of them,
This is one of
completion of
them,
the
yeah.
improvements. The street tree requirement has 80 trees shown on the final plan. When Jeff Curlin had met with
Yeah.
Dave and I believe the developer and the group
Right.
there, discuss this further. And our concern was not necessarily with the number of trees that we were set on the number, but basically what happens is if you would waive trees, we wanted to make sure that the homeowners were aware of it, and we had some kind of documentation to say that, yes, homeowner X was agreeable to waive their street trees on their lot, because what happens is they sell their lot to someone else, and then they come in and they say, where are the 3 trees that were on my approved plan? So to have a paper trail was one of the reasons that we had talked about with Dave and the group, so that you could keep track of those items, meet with the homeowners, get their blessing on it, so that we could have that for consideration of any kind of relief.
I guess my concern is because this is part of our SALDO requirements, and one of the conditions that were approved and recommended by our planning commission to the board to adopt this plan. If we should throw it back for their recommendations about this change and how they suggested we handle it going forward, because we make developers put in trees, and they do. I understand the situation here, but at the same token, I don't want to start some precedent that just goes haywire. And I imagine all these people that bought these properties knew they were going to have trees put there at some
Figured they
point.
did, yeah.
Yeah,
No, we did not.
No?
We did not.
they would have been on the recorded plan.
You buy a lot, you don't look at the court.
Okay.
You look at the deed.
Yeah. And that's where I'm not sure I'm comfortable just taking a brush and brushing it out and say, let's just, I would be in favor of you going to the planning commission and have them make a recommendation to this board on how they think the best way to address this tree issue.
What is the process of that? You have
You would just appear at we could add you to the agenda
Okay.
of the planning commission. I believe they meet on I don't have the date with you, but the next meeting is probably in 2 weeks, I would think.
yeah.
The
It's the 22nd.
So 2 weeks from yesterday. They'll meet, they'll provide feedback on
Okay.
the same thing that you're showing the board tonight. They'll provide a recommendation of some sort, and then it'll come back before the board for their consideration, so.
What we've done in the past with things like this, after the plan is recorded and then they want, some sort of relief, we've prepared a resolution regarding that relief that's being waived, and then that's recorded, so that any property owners place, any subsequent property owners placed on notice that this is not a requirement anymore, and the supervisors approved it.
Yeah.
If the supervisors want to go that route.
That'll get back to the documentation.
You got it.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
What kind of response did you get when you talked to the residents, members?
There was almost, I'd say most of the homeowners were there. Am I right? There was maybe a few that weren't there.
I'd say 75%.
Yeah, it was,
Did they want trees or?
some did, some didn't.
Lots aren't good enough. There's utilities, there's sewers, there's water lines, there's electric lines, there's cable lines.
Okay, we understand. I just want to maintain the integrity of our saldo and going forward, and let the planning commission discuss with them. And I think there's a resolution here that's possible. It's just,
There is, as I said, there is 23 street trees already planted by and there are various kinds of trees. So, yeah, that's in there. And how fast can we move on with the other ones? Like if we get our inspections, that can all be done in a...
You can keep moving on
Yeah.
those items. This would just be one of the things that would be hanging until we had
Okay,
that
so
meeting.
nothing else needs to be
No.
brought in, just get the inspection.
Yeah, correct. Unless you needed further relief on something.
Okay.
But I don't believe,
Right.
off the top of my head, that you would need relief in those areas.
you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment, the one thing, and I have discussion with them is, first of all, not really based on discussion with them, but as far as the timing, if you wait another month, contingent on the planning commission's comments, it'll kick it into middle of November. And I know they like to get dedicated to this fall. Is there any way that the board can make a decision contingent on the approval by the planning commission for the waiver? So that they would have to wait the 2 weeks, but not the 4 or 5 weeks, whatever the case may be.
One option that we have done in the past for other developments is we've kept an amount in financial security for the improvement, with the condition that the tree plantings would be planted within a certain time period, most likely within the maintenance period, whether that be in spring, or fall, the remaining fall, or however that could be arranged. But we have collected and kept financial security separate for, let's say, sidewalk for a building lot that wasn't completed, or trees on a lot that wasn't completed, while the maintenance period was ongoing for the dedication. So that is possible.
So that means the dedication could be done in the next month.
Could be done, and then one of the conditions would be we would hold escrow on the trees, and until that issue was resolved, and/or they were planted.
Right.
Right.
But we haven't seen this checklist of what needs to be done yet.
No, the township would have a copy of that, but yeah, the developer's been issued a checklist for that.
I couldn't come up with a checklist, but it was already, most of the items were already satisfied. Everything else, the only issue we have now is stormwater drain inspection. And surveyor needs to come out to the lot pins and the monuments.
Right.
And the stormwater basin needs to have an outfit done. So that Stackhouse is already released to do all that work. And I guess John Solstice Jr., who was chairman of the finance committee here, he said, we're supposed to ask the question, can we get on your agenda for the dedication of the streets? But everything else, the last lot needs to be stabilized, which I can't see for that probably be done in the next week or two. And just the question, can we get on your agenda for the dedication of the streets?
Well, it would have to be at a future meeting, I would think.
Right,
at this point, yes.
but could it be scheduled for the November meeting? Or?
Yeah, and I was actually, I apologize, I was under the impression you received a letter from Jeff for his inspection of that punch list of items. I will follow up on that.
We met with Jeff.
Right, but I think what you're going to be looking for is a list that everyone's on the same page of X, Y, Z needs to be completed, and this is what you need to provide for that next meeting, so that they have all the information they need in order to accept dedication at that point. So I would foresee that letter going out very quickly here, and then you would have the information you need to collect in the meantime, so that you could be on that November meeting.
Yep.
Would be my suggestion.
Yeah, it seems if you're willing to keep the tree money in escrow until it's resolved, and you meet all the other checklists, I think
You don't think that would hold up the dedication, the tree planting?
Yeah, it would just be part of the condition that would be noted as part of the acceptance of the dedication.
We realize that we have a right to outplant trees, we're just trying to respect the homeowner's wishes at this point. We don't get no way to go.
Yeah, I appreciate that too.
Right.
It's not that we're trying to get away from planting 80 trees, but
Yeah. You don't want to get shot.
you should have seen the crowd that showed up out there that evening.
How did it come about that, some of these properties have people in them for, 10 years or something?
It's 10 years old.
So we look at how that's done, so maybe that should be done before the property is sold or something.
What's that? I'm sorry.
Street trees. He's saying why, like in other developments and in meadows, when he finishes a lot, the trees are planted.
It seems
Weather
that they should be
permitting,
planted
obviously.
before the
That's what
property
it's
is sold, then we won't have these.
Then maybe Liz can chime in on this, but I know as long as we have financial security, unless we go into the default position of actually planning them, we can't compel the developer to do that. I mean, we'd have to go through that legal process to compel the actual planning.
Well, we have a planning commission for a reason. I think it's important that we try to follow what they want to see. But at this point, people living there for 10 years already, and they don't like trees or something, maybe that's why they bought the property.
And some have planted their own trees, that's part of the reason.
Right.
They don't want more trees, they've already planted trees.
So at this point, we can expect another from Jeff.
Yes.
Outstanding issues.
Yes.
And
And that'll list everything that you need to know as far as what you need to do to have the dedication proceed. Yes.
But then they should come to the planning commission.
And you should definitely come to the planning, regardless, to discuss the tree issue.
Yeah.
And that is the,
This is 22nd. Yeah.
Does that need a motion, or we just don't take action?
And then we'll just take it to the planning commission.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay, this time, we'll move on to the minutes. Are there any additional corrections to the minutes of the September 11th meeting?
I read the minutes, I make a motion to accept them, and they were presented.
Okay, the motion was made and I'll second that. So the motion was made and seconded. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, we have the bills. A total of $85,030.09. Are there any items of question or discussion on the bills?
There was one thing that I was wondering, and I can't find it now. You had a Eagle Randall rock hound or something? Is that a Randall or is that something we bought?
That's what I don't want.
For
It was for the farmhouse.
grass seeding.
Is that kept in the park and rec fund for the farmhouse, or how's that? The farmhouse?
Well, that was a ski mover and a rock hound. Yeah. Makes a little bit more sense.
Yes.
Oh,
that's good.
You saw that one day you thought it was just a rock hound.
Yeah.
Oh,
I thought maybe you bought it.
I don't have much room for description in there, Dave.
That's why I asked.
Yep, no problem.
Well, and I have one question on the back engine from Pennsylvania Truck Center. What's the status of that?
What's the status of it? It's back, it's fixed. It was, the engine was missing. We had inspections were back in June, and the engine was missing, and our mechanic here locally, we needed the software from a dealership in order to do computer updates and investigate a little deeper as to why the engine was missing. And Mac believe they replaced some kind of computer solenoid or something like that. And that seems to have solved the issue now.
Seems like it did.
I was, when they brought it, from what I'm told, I didn't drive it yet, but from what I'm told, it isn't missing anymore. And they drove it all the way back from Reading, so.
Anything else? Make a motion.
I'll make a motion, we pay the October invoices, the amount of $85,030.09.
Okay, I'll second that motion. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Okay, you have the roadmaster's report in our packet. It's like the rain kept you busy.
Oh, yeah, unreal.
And Oakland Drive project is still being pushed back.
Yeah, it's still being pushed back. They're on schedule to be starting the 15th. I was in contact with them and explained a little bit to them the situation, and they don't think it's going to be an issue getting done by the end of October here. But with the way the weather's been this year, they can't promise us anything. But they understand that once we get to a certain point, they may not be able to do it at all this year.
I guess that wouldn't be totally bad if it was pushed back till next year, would it?
I don't know how that process.
No, I don't. Are you just talking about the reclamation?
Yeah.
What point are they at?
They haven't started.
yet, okay.
They
But
plan
they-
on starting the 15th.
Yeah, they
Right.
did all their PA1 calls.
So they did
and
the
all
one
that.
calls, I mean,
Yeah.
they could probably get it to a point where it would make sense, and then maybe carry over to next year, instead of putting the final, is that just getting binder? or
It's
is
just
that-
getting binder.
It's just getting binder, okay.
Yeah, so.
I would think they'd be able to.
They told me in a
They
week and a
said-
half they'd be able to get the project done.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
So,
so,
and then everybody, I think
keep
they'll
your
be.
fingers crossed.
Yeah, for good weather,
Mhm.
so.
It'll be close, but they might be able to do it. The governor did extend, I did contact Scott Lehman, and we do have to the 31st. It's normally the 15th in order to do the liquid fuels.
Down over the hill is all on the north side of the trees there. It's not gonna dry out.
Well,
I'm just wondering at some point if it doesn't, if the weather stays the way it is, should we just hold off until next year?
well, I mean, the process that they're gonna do, I don't know that it would have dried out, if they would have did it in August, it would have been the same, I mean.
Yeah.
They're gonna come in, they're gonna place a stone, then the mill guy's gonna come right in behind the stoning guys and milling it up. And then there's gonna be guys right behind them grading it off, and then another crew right behind them, once everybody gets so far, they'll be paving it. And it's gonna be back to back to back, so with good weather, it won't be sitting open long at all. And the dirt's never actually really gonna be exposed, it's gonna be stone and millings and that's it, so. It would have never had a, chance to dry out really if it was wet.
And what happens if it gets cold in the middle of the project?
I don't, you look at the long range forecast, I think we're gonna be okay, our average temperatures this time of year are low 60s and in the 40s, and I think they have to be 40 and rising for them to pave. So, I mean, I think we're okay yet. I've seen them
I've been paving in
paving.
November already.
Yeah, I've seen them paving streets in December
It
already.
depends, you're just gonna have to, it's
Yeah.
gonna be one of those wait and see.
What's your opinion, Tori?
Yeah.
Okay, we're good. Okay, anything else for the roadmaster? Okay, Township Engineers Report.
Okay, you have a copy of my report. I have several items. I'll try to be brief with those and a couple additions as well. Item on page 4, at the bottom, Frank Pudlow's stormwater project issued a financial security release recommendation September 12, in the amount of $2,500. Item 2 is the Allen Hoover stormwater project, financial security release dated September 24, in the amount of $900. Item number 3 is the Horse Outdoor Power Equipment Land Development. This is Willard Horse on Reading Road. We received a stormwater management agreement, and we also just today issued a financial security recommendation in the amount of $7,370 for that project. Item number 4 is the Nathan and Martha Martin stormwater project. Received stormwater management agreement and memorandum of understanding, along with the financial security recommendation of September 18th. In the amount of $3,080. Item 5 is the Maple Grove Automotive, Andrews Way, Lot 6 land development, issued financial security release recommendation of October 3, in the amount of $84,752.73. Item 6 is Justin and Tanya Gaiman stormwater project, received stormwater management agreement memorandum of understanding, issued financial security recommendation of September 19th, in the amount of $2,200. On page 5, it's number 7, the Delbert and Andy Martin lot consolidation plan. We received the stormwater management, shared driveway, and developers agreements from the applicant for action by the board. Item number 8 is the Randall L. Martin Builder stormwater project, stormwater management agreement, memorandum of understanding, and issued financial security recommendation in the amount of $2,750. Item 9 is the Michael Ringler Stormwater Project, memorandum of understanding, stormwater management agreement, and a financial security letter of October 5th in the amount of $2,970. And lastly is the Richard and Dorcas Martin Stormwater Project. That is a memorandum of understanding for their small projects application we have it on earlier tonight.
Now, you said you had something to add?
I did add the items already.
There's 10 items.
Yes, there's 10 items.
Any questions? 10 items? Not, I'll make a motion that we approve the action as recommended by the township engineer for approval. 10 items as listed.
Second it.
Okay, the motion is made and second. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, we have the SEO's report. We have the zoning officer's report. Is there any discussion or questions on any of those? Does the solicitor have anything? Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the roadmaster engineer, SEO zoning and solicitor's reports stated.
Second it.
Will second, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, we have nothing from the Park and Rec in our packet. Moving on to new business, we have the Green's Salvage Yard license application to renew. Is that what we do?
Yep.
We do it every year?
Yep.
So it's simply a motion to renew it.
You got it.
For the calendar year.
It's actually from November to November.
Here I make a motion that we renew the Barry Ream application to operate his salvage and recycling yard from November this year till next November of next year.
I second it.
Okay, the motion is made and second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Now, we have 2018 Commonwealth State Aid allocations supporting the volunteer fire relief associations, and you have that split apart. 10% going to Adamstown and 90% split between Bowmansville and...
It's one fund. It's actually just 90%. They share a fund between both fire
Okay.
companies.
Okay, a shared fund. And that requires any action
It requires a motion by the board.
to
Disperse,
distribute.
as I have it noted there, yes.
Okay. Well, I make a motion that we disperse the 10% to Adamstown and 90% to the Brecknock Fire Company as listed from the Volunteer Fire Relief Association. The total amount was $41,937.82.
I second it.
Okay, the motion is made second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Does that conclude our agenda?
Yes.
We make a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn at 8:03.
I second that. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.